Hello and welcome to From the Roots Up. It is an exciting day here. We are going to be making 31 freezer meal recipes, and at the end of the day, we are going to have a ton of meals to stock the freezer with. We have all felt the budget crunches lately with the economy and especially with food prices. And it can be really challenging on exhausting days when we're super busy and all you want to do is just say, oh honey, bring something home for dinner, or let's just drive through. But the easiest way that I found to combat that is to actually have some really easy convenience meals at home. Now you can buy convenience meals, but they're really expensive. So it's great to be able to make some. So our goal today is to make a ton of convenience meals, things that we can just dump in the crock pot and go, lunches, breakfasts, whatever, that we can just pull out and eat. And these are gonna last us a couple of months, I think, and we're just so excited. So like I said, 31 different meals, and we're gonna try to get it done today, but if we don't, we have all weekend. Our goal is for sure by the end of the weekend to get this done. So this is school for us today on a Friday. This is home ec day. So the girls are gonna pitch in and help and learn about making some of these freezer meals. Are y'all excited? Yeah. It's gonna be a fun day, right? Let's get started. I'll be putting all the links to these recipes down in the description below. Listen, for freezer meals days, Pinterest is your best friend. You can find all sorts of whatever you want to find on Pinterest. So we've prepped these recipes. We've got our food ready to go, and now it's time to get started. The first thing you want to do when it's a freezer meal day is to start by taking the things that take the longest to cook and make sure you get those started. For instance, today we've got 2 whole chickens, we've got a roast, and we've got potatoes that go in the oven. You don't want to get to the end of the day and realize, oh, it's time to make this. Oh no, I've got an hour on these potatoes. No fun. So we're gonna get those started early so that we can get them going through, and when it's time to use them, they're ready to go. All right, first things first, we are gonna set our oven to 400 degrees for the potatoes. And Taylor is gonna be in charge of washing these potatoes and getting them ready to go in the oven. All right, I have a couple of things here. I have this Instapot, which is great for the roast. But first, I have a Nesco roaster. I'm gonna go ahead and get this started. I'm gonna preheat it to 400 degrees. This is what I'm gonna cook my chickens in. And then let's get the roast in here. Now with an Instapot, you wanna get a little bit of water on the bottom of it, like 1/4 of an inch. You can season the roast if you want. For this recipe, it doesn't need it, but I am gonna season it a little bit. For the Instapot, we're gonna pressure cook this roast for about 2 hours and it will be falling apart tender. So we're gonna take it and we're gonna turn pressure cook high for 2 hours. It's already set there because the last thing I cooked in here was a roast. And you just hit start and it's good to go. This doesn't really require any babysitting at all. It's wonderful, and it's gonna pressurize up and then count down 2 hours, and at the end of the 2 hours, we can either release the pressure ourselves or we can let it slow release. Either way, it sits, it's ready to go. All right, now I'm gonna put the chickens in the Nesco roaster because that's gonna take a little while. I have the rack down in here and I'm just gonna put both chickens on the rack. Now, if you're doing just roast chicken, you can season these and do all sorts of stuff. I am doing pulled chicken to put in things. I'm not gonna butter them and oil them and do all that stuff. I'm gonna probably sprinkle a little bit of seasoning on them just to give them a little flavor, but you don't have to even do that. We're gonna cook these for an hour to an hour and a half at 375. I know I preheated 400 just to give it an extra boost in the heating, but 375, an hour to an hour and a half, and then we want to check the internal temperature. That internal temperature of the chicken should be 180 degrees. So now I've got lots of stuff going. Let's get to chopping. So we're gonna bring the girls over and we're gonna start chopping a lot of things. All right, the girls are all set up for cutting. Taylor's gonna be cutting my vegetables and Michaela's gonna be cutting my meat. And here's one of the really important tips when you're doing freezer meals is that you want to batch cut things. So for instance, if you've got like half a bell pepper in something and 1 bell pepper in another thing and 2 bell peppers, you don't want to cut those at different times. Cut them all at once, save your time, but it does take a little bit of time up front because you have to do some figuring. But we've already done that figuring and we are cutting everything for all of our recipes except for the potatoes because we don't want those to brown. But everything that we're not at risk of browning that we can cut early, we're cutting early. So we're gonna go ahead and start that process. All right, girls, you know what to do. And I just heard my oven timer go off. I'm gonna go ahead and get those 5 pounds of potatoes in the oven to start cooking because they take up to an hour to cook. And then I'm gonna cook bacon while y'all are doing this. All right, as per somebody's suggestion, we're trying to freeze the onions and see if maybe we don't end up in a tear fest. Something else I wanted to point out was that we are keeping our scraps in this big bowl, our veggie scraps, because at the end of this, we're gonna have two chicken carcasses, lots of veggie scraps, all sorts of leftovers. We're gonna stick them in this Nesco roaster, set it to go, and make some broth at the very end with all of our leftovers. All right, we have pretty much all of the chopping and slicing done. I'm gonna have a whole lot of extra ham attached to this ham bone, but I'm gonna go ahead and save this in a freezer bag and just stick it in the freezer, and I'm gonna use this in ham and bean soup later on. Next, we prepped some eggs to go into some breakfast sandwiches, a little milk, salt and pepper, and then a dozen eggs. We put them in a greased pan, and then we popped them in the oven to bake.
Okay, I'm going to be making twice baked potatoes. What we've already done, we washed these potatoes off. This is 15 potatoes, roughly 5 pounds of potatoes. We baked the potatoes until the insides were soft. And now what we're going to do to make the twice baked part is we are going to cut them open, scoop the insides out. We're gonna set the empty shells on these cookie sheets here. We're gonna put the insides all in the mixer. We'll link the exact recipe in the description below, but we're going to add in some milk, butter, cream cheese, and some seasonings. Then after that, we're going to scoop the insides back into the potato halves that are sitting in the cookie sheets. And then we are going to top it with cheese and flash freeze them. Normally, if you're going to just eat them that night, you would bake them first, but we are going to just put them in the freezer. So let's get started.
All right, while she's working on those potatoes, I'm gonna put together a really simple chicken fajita dump. And if you'll notice, I already wrote the directions on the bag. Bake at 400 degrees, 20 to 25 minutes. This is after we pull it out, we're gonna dump it in a pan, we're gonna stick it in the oven, and it's gonna be ready to go. I like to write the directions on the bags first because once they have stuff in them, they're really difficult. The first thing I'm gonna put in here is a pound of chicken. And I've mass sliced my chicken, or better yet, Michaela mass sliced my chicken. So we're gonna measure out a pound of this, and that's about a pound. Good. I'm gonna wash my hands real good. Then all that's left is I'm gonna dump the veggies. I had a cup of onions and then some bell peppers sliced up. All right, a couple tablespoons of oil in here, and then we'll put the seasonings. And I will link the exact recipe with these seasonings down below, but we got some chili powder, oregano, cumin, and garlic powder in here. Okay, let's zip it all up, and we're gonna shake it and mix it up real good. Then we're gonna let the air out of it and push it flat, seal it up, and that is our first freezer meal ready to go. Now, if you haven't noticed already, we're using a ton of dishes. A really important thing when you're making freezer meals is to keep those same dishes cleaned over and over again as you go. Otherwise, it's really overwhelming at the end of the day when you're already exhausted from spending all day making freezer meals. So there's your helpful tip.
Okay, so I've hollowed out all the potatoes. I ended up using 2 cookie sheets full of them, and I put the potatoes, the cream cheese, and the milk in the blender. There are a few more seasonings, but that is going to be to taste, so I'm gonna mix this up first. Add a bit of garlic powder. I've added all the seasonings, and now I'm going to add the meat and mix that in. And now we can start reloading our potatoes. All right, I've loaded these potatoes. The next step is going to be to cover them with cheese. Then we're going to flash freeze them. After that, we can seal them in individual bags. To flash freeze these, we're going to take the cookie sheets and put them straight into the freezer for a couple of hours.
So I'm going to show you how to make some really yummy Hawaiian sweet roll sliders. So we're going to start with the topping, which is onion powder, ground mustard, and poppy seeds, and butter. We'll link the exact recipe in the description box down below. Now we're going to put a little bit of poppy seed in there, a little bit of onion powder, a little bit of ground mustard. And we're just going to mix this up real good. So we're going to set our sauce to the side and start preparing the buns. So we're gonna cut these in half. I have one pre-cut so I can show you how to do it. And what we're gonna do is take our honey mustard, squirt some on here, and spread it around. Okay. Now we're going to take a piece of Swiss cheese, and you want to split this in half so that one half can go on each side, and that's important because it will keep the sandwich from getting too soggy. One right there and one right there. And now we're going to take a piece of ham and put it in the sandwich and close it. Ham sandwich. And just put them in there. Let's do the rest of them. So now that we made our sandwiches, got one slipping, we're going to brush our poppy seed, ground mustard, and onion powder butter mix on top with a little kitchen brush. And after that, we will put the foil on. And we've already written on our foil the instructions, so we can just pull it out, read the instructions, and do it. These sliders look and smell delicious. So I am excited to try these. So now we're going to put a blank piece of foil on top first. And then after you've secured this piece of foil, very good, you can put the piece of foil that has your instructions on it, which is Thaw overnight in the fridge. Bake at 375 to 20 to 25 minutes. And here are our sliders.
All right, for our next meal, this is a really simple thing. It's gonna be a broccoli potato chicken bake, and we're just gonna layer the ingredients. I'm filling 2 8x8 dishes. If you wanna make it bigger, you can just do this whole thing in one 9x13 dish. Again, I'll link the recipe down below so you can see the exact measurements and things. In each one of these pans, we're gonna have 2 layers. So I'm gonna take 1/4 of the ingredients to start with the layer. So I'm gonna take 1/4 of the potatoes and put them down. And again, we're gonna do it on both sides. 1/4 of those potatoes. It's not exact science, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna take about 1/4 of the broccoli and put it down. 1/4 of the onion. And 1/4 of the chicken. This chicken was the chicken that we cooked in that Nesco roaster at the beginning, and I just shredded it up. And 1/4 of the cheese. Then we'll take a little salt, a little pepper, and garlic powder and season the top. And one more layer of all of those things. And in each of these, I'm gonna take 1/2 cup of heavy cream, and I'm gonna pour it over the top and let it seep down in. And 1/2 cup in this one. And finally, I'm going to put about a tablespoon of butter just cut up in nice tiny chunks. Just sprinkle that on top. And that's all there is to these. I'm gonna put little lids on them, and as we've done in the past, I went ahead and put the cooking directions on here. Bake at 350 for an hour, then you can sprinkle it with cheese and bake for 5 or 10 more minutes till that cheese bakes. And that's that. Super simple, really easy little layered bake. And we have 2 more meals for our freezer.
Okay, next we're going to be making breakfast sandwiches. So what we're gonna need to do for this is we have this sheet of just cooked egg in a pan that we've cut up into 12 squares. We have English muffins, sliced cheddar cheese, and bacon over here. So what we are going to do is we are going to take an English muffin, gonna want to cut that in half. Then you stick on a piece of egg, a bacon, or a couple pieces of bacon. I'm ripping these up, and a piece of cheese. And there is 1 breakfast sandwich. Now you just wrap it in foil. You are going to want to microwave these for a minute, then flip them and microwave them for about 30 more seconds. You're going to want to unwrap them from the foil because foil and the microwave don't mix. That is a good way to burn your house down. So avoid doing that. So let's make these sandwiches. Now our potatoes are nice and firm. They've been in the freezer for a couple of hours. Now we're going to put them in the bag. We've marked on the bag how long to put them in. We're going to put 10 potatoes in each bag, or 10 potato halves in each bag, because that is how many we'll feed our family for a big dinner. So the baking instructions, you're gonna bake them at 350 degrees for 30 to 40 minutes.
All right, next up is French toast casserole. And for this, you're gonna want a loaf of sourdough bread. The first step is to take a 9x13 baking dish, and we're just gonna tear this sourdough bread up and lay it evenly in the dish. Now we're going to mix kind of a filling for this French toast casserole. We've got 2 cups of milk, half a cup of heavy whipping cream, 3/4 of a cup of sugar, a tablespoon of vanilla extract, and 8 eggs. All right, we're gonna whisk this up. Once it's well mixed, we're gonna pour it evenly over this casserole. All right, now for the topping. We need half a cup of flour, half a cup of brown sugar, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and then a half a cup of butter, but cut up into little squares, and we're gonna put that in here. And we're gonna mix this all together. Now we're gonna take this topping and we're just gonna sprinkle it evenly over the top. All right, now all that's left is to seal it up with foil. And like with everything else, we've written the baking instructions on the foil. Thaw it overnight, bake in the oven at 350 degrees for 45 minutes to an hour. This is gonna be a delicious, easy breakfast or snack or treat for one day. It's gonna be great. So this next one is really, really simple. It is Italian herb chicken legs. And what we're gonna do is spray these pans just a little bit. We're going to add the chicken. Now I have 5 pounds of chicken in each pan. 2 to 2.5 pounds of chicken works. If you only have 2 pounds, then just do 1 pan. And you can do this with chicken legs or chicken thighs. Either will work great. Now we're going to take the veggies and put half in each pan. So I'm going to put half the potatoes in here. And half in this one. And for the veggies, I just did chopped up potatoes, chopped up carrots, and some chopped up onions. And I bet you're seeing now how much easier it makes it that we cut all of our veggies up front. It's a little bit of a time commitment up front, but boy, does it save you tons of time later. Then we're gonna take some olive oil mixed with some Italian seasoning, salt, pepper, and a couple cloves of garlic mixed together. This is about a 1/4 cup. And I'm gonna put, half of it in each. And then we're just gonna toss it to get that oil mixed really good. Now all there is left to do is to put foil over the top. And as we've done with the others, we put the instructions. We're gonna thaw it in the fridge overnight, bake at 375 for 60 minutes. We also be sure to put the name of the recipe and the date, because you think you will remember, but I promise you, once you have a freezer full of these, you're gonna very easily forget.
So now I'm going to show you another freezer meal. It's a dessert, old-fashioned freezable apple crisps. So we have our cored, peeled, and sliced apples ready from when Mom made apple pie filling in the Every Bit Counts challenge. So we're gonna start by mixing the flour. Next, we're going to do brown sugar. Another brown sugar cake. Oats. All right, there's my oats. Cinnamon and nutmeg. We're going to stir in 1 cup of melted butter. Okay, now where do we mix it? I have a feeling that these are going to be delicious, not just because they sound delicious, because this already smells delicious. Cooking pan with spray or oil. I'm going to be using spray. Place apples in pan. Woo. Just going to sprinkle the topping on. Okay. Apparently it may seem like there's too much topping, but there is not. It will bake down. That's what the recipe says. This looks yummy. Put our lid on. Here's our apple crisp thingy.
So now we're gonna make a skillet meal with broccoli and beef. We put the broccoli in a separate bag, then put some skirt steak that's chopped up. We have soy sauce in this, brown sugar, a can of chicken broth, and some crushed up garlic, and then just some sesame seed oil. Then we put this bag inside of the broccoli bag, and it acts as a marinade, and it's ready to go.
I'm going to show you how to make pizza casserole dump. So first we're going to mix the ground beef, pizza sauce in here, tablespoon of dried oregano, and 1 tablespoon of garlic salt. Okay. 2 cups of cooked medium shells. Okay, so we've cooked our shells. 2 cups of mozzarella. And mix it. One cup of mozzarella cheese on top. And this is ready to go in the freezer. We have written the instructions on the lid so that we can just pull it out and read it and not have to dig through our recipes and try to find this one. Pizza dump casserole is done.
Okay, now we are making stir fry. So the first thing that we're going to do to make this is we're going to start working on the sauce. We're going to add in soy sauce, sesame seed oil, honey, cornstarch, chicken broth, rice vinegar, garlic, and ginger. We will have the exact recipe in the description below. All right, we've mixed up the soup. Now I'm going to divide it between 8 little Ziploc bags. And next we are going to prep the veggies. We have them all cut here. We're just going to put them straight into these bags. We're gonna put 4 cups of veggies in each bag. All right, that is the vegetables. Next, we are going to bag up the meat and put them in the smaller bags like we did the sauce and stick them in to the gallon Ziploc bags. So I have chicken and pork and steak. So I'm going to split these up and put a pound in each bag. All right, this is our first stir fry bag. It's got vegetables, sauce, and meat all in it. This is ready to go. So now I'm going to finish up with all the other meat. All right, that is everything that goes into our stir fry bags. They will be good for about 3 months, so make sure you cook them by then. You can add whatever kind of rice or filler you want, but that is it.
All right, we are about to call it a night. It's late and we've gotten a ton done, but it's clear this is gonna be a whole weekend project, and that's okay. But I wanted to tonight, since I've got my chicken carcasses in here, I've got my fresh veggies. I'm gonna go ahead and dump these in, or my veggie scraps, not my fresh veggies, and dump these in. And I'm gonna just fill it with water, and then we'll set this to 250 overnight and make our broth. All right, that looks pretty well covered. All right, so I put the lid on it and I'm gonna set this to 250. And it's gonna go overnight and then we can strain it out in the morning. All right, it is the next day. We are up this morning and I went ahead and turned the roaster off, and the puppies are barking under my feet. And so this can cool while we work so that we can get it in jars or cans or whatever we're gonna do with it. But right now, we're going to make some beef enchiladas for the freezer. I'm going to take a couple of cups of just pot roast and 4 cups of cheese, and about well, I'm using half this can, and this is a 28-ounce can because I'm going to use the other half to pour over it. So half that can of red enchilada sauce. I'm going to mix this up. And this is just our very basic enchilada filling. We're going to wrap it up in some tortillas and put it in this 9x13 pan. Now I'm going to take the rest of this can of sauce and I'm just going to pour it over top. And take about a cup of cheese and sprinkle the cheese evenly over the top of that. Then it's ready to go in the freezer. So as with the rest of them, I put the instructions on here, and for this one, you're gonna pull it straight out of the freezer, stick it in the oven at 350 for 40 to 45 minutes, then pull the top foil off and put it back in for 5 more minutes, and it'll be ready to go. Okay, up next, I believe I've gathered all the supplies for a super easy dump in the Crockpot meal. This is ham and scalloped potatoes, and before I put stuff in the bag. I went ahead and wrote on it because, again, it's really difficult to write on bags once you have them filled. But I've got thaw and fridge. You just dump this in the slow cooker and cook it on low for 7 to 8 hours. Really super simple. So we're gonna start with our potatoes. They're cut into rounds, like a little 1/4 of an inch. There's about 10 potatoes here. I'm gonna layer them in with the ham just to make it easier to mix. A little bit of diced ham. And again, this isn't a super precise recipe, so you don't have to be particular. I'm also going to put some onions and garlic in here, and I'll go ahead and layer those halfway through. And then I'll put some on top. And it's really not that big a deal because when you dump them in the crock pot, they're gonna get mixed all together. Okay, let's put the rest of these in. Now I'm gonna put a cup of cheese. This is your choice, cheddar. This is a Mexican blend. Whatever you like in your scalloped potatoes. Then I'm gonna put a cup of chicken broth in here. And a cup of water, a tablespoon of spicy brown mustard, and just some salt and pepper. And I'm gonna knead the bag just a little bit, but again, this isn't terribly important because all the ingredients are gonna get mixed together in the crock pot. And then it's ready for the freezer. And this will be another dump and go crock pot meal.
All right, now we are making beef and bean burritos. So the first thing that I'm going to do with this is I have 1.5 pounds of meat. I am using half a pound of ground beef and 1 pound of venison from a deer that I shot last year, which is cool. So got to brown that is the first thing we've got to do with some onions. All right, I have cooked and drained the meat, and then we're going to add 8 ounces of tomato sauce. This is actually a 15-ounce can, so I'm going to just add half of this in. After that, we're going to add 2 teaspoons of taco seasoning to it. We will link the exact recipe down in the description, but tomato sauce and taco seasoning. And we reduce the heat to low. We're just going to let this sit for a couple minutes. All right, while the meat mixture is setting, we are going to just make this bean mixture. Take just a can of refried beans and pinto beans and just mix those together. All right. We have mixed up the beans, cooked the meat, and we have some cheese here. So now we are going to start building the burritos, and this is supposed to make about 10 burritos.
Okay, up next is another pretty simple one. We're going to make some pot pies. I have 5 pounds of ground beef here, and then I've got 5 pounds of chopped up and cooked potatoes we're gonna mix in. And I may need a bigger pot. Yep. Actually, my best bet for this is gonna be my roaster pot. It'll be easier to stir too. All right, so I've got 5 pounds of potatoes, 5 pounds of ground beef, and the potatoes are cut up in little chunks and I cooked them. Now, 5 pounds of mixed veggies. These are 2-pound bags. I'm just gonna pour these in. Next, we're gonna add gravy, and you can add your own that you make, but for the sake of ease, I am adding this Heinz Homestyle gravy. I'm gonna add some pepper, a couple of teaspoons of salt, and some oregano. We're gonna stir that up real good, make sure it's nice and mixed. I'm mixing up an egg wash right now. Then you want your pie crusts and your pie pans, and you'll want a double pie crust. Well, you'll want 5 double pie crusts. And I just bought mine, but if you're feeling plucky, go ahead and make them. We're gonna go ahead and put the pie crusts in all of these pie pans, all 5, and that way it'll be easier to divide these evenly. Okay, so now we have 5 pie crusts and we're gonna fill them, and we're just gonna take all of this mixture and split it evenly between 5 pans. And you're starting to really see how batch cooking can add up, because to do each of these individually would have taken about the same time as it took me to do 5. So 5 dinners in the time it took to do 1. You can see it's really worth it to take some extra time and get these done. And now I'm going to cover the top with the second pie crust. Smash it down. And once I've done that, I can wash this with my egg wash mixture. All right, now that I have the top on that, I am going to put the lid on. And then I'm going to write what this is, the date, and the cooking instructions. And for these, we're gonna bake at 350 degrees for 45 minutes to an hour. All right, 5 more meals to add to the freezer.
So we are going to cut potatoes for our shepherd's pie, and while we are making our meatballs, we're gonna let these cook. We're gonna make mashed potatoes out of them. You can peel them if you want to, but we're not going to. So now we are going to cover them with water and boil them until they're soft so we can make mashed potatoes. So while our potatoes are boiling, we're going to make some slow cooker meatballs. So in here we have some meat, ground meat. So to start, we are going to mix 1 egg. There is our preheated oven timer. Our 2 cloves of crushed garlic. Panko breadcrumbs. Parmesan cheese. Parsley flake thingies. A little bit of salt. And some pepper. Okay. And now we just need to mix this really good. Put this into the bowl with the ground beef. And mix really good. Okay, now that this is good, mixed and good, we are going to make little balls out of these. And they should be about this big. Okay, so we've rolled out our meatballs and put them on the pan. And now we need to bake our meatballs for 10 to 12 minutes. So let's put them in the oven.
All right, while Michaela has those things going in the oven and on the stove, I'm gonna go ahead and mix up a really quick one. We're gonna do slow cooker chicken thighs. And I'm gonna put a bag of chicken thighs in here. I'm gonna do 2 to 3 pounds. All right, now we're gonna put 6 cloves of garlic in here. Crushing them releases the flavor and the medicinal value. 1/3 cup of soy sauce. 1/3 cup of honey. 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. 1.5 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce. And 2 teaspoons of sesame seed oil. And that's all there is to it. We're gonna zip it, squeeze the air out of it. You can kind of shift it around a little to mix it. And as usual, I have written on it the instructions for cooking it. This one is gonna go straight into the crock pot. And after it's cooked for a few hours in the crock pot, we're gonna add a little bit of starch and a little bit of water and cook it on high for about 30 more minutes. But another really, really simple freezer meal.
Our meatballs just got out of the oven, and while they are cooling, we are going to make our mashed potatoes for our mini shepherd pies. We're gonna start by mixing 1/4 cup of milk, 1/4 cup of sour cream, and 1 tablespoon of butter into our potatoes. We're gonna go ahead and mash these. Mash and mix them. So now we're going to check this. Nice mashed potatoes. Okay, so we have our heated up meat and our little bitty teeny tiny pans. And we're going to mix 1/2 teaspoon of paprika, 1/2 teaspoon of garlic salt. I have some mixed steamed rice veggies. You just really need veggies. Pour those in here. I'm using about 1 pound of these. I'm just mixing this together really well. And now I am going to scoop this into these pans about halfway. So now we have scooped all of the meat and veggies into our little pans, and now we're gonna get these mashed potatoes in. So I've got the mashed potatoes in, and we put a little bit of salt on there, and now we're just gonna sprinkle some cheese. We're using the Fiesta blend. You can use whatever kind you want. We ended up with 7 of these little shepherd's pies, and they look and both smell delicious. So we are going to put the lids on and write the reheating instructions, which is 400 degrees for 45 to 50 minutes. Right, here are our little shepherd pies. So our meatballs are cooled, and we're going to stick them in a bag. I already have the instructions written on it because it's easier to write on it when there's not something in the bag. I have the meatballs in our bag, and we are going to mix 1 cup of chopped yellow onions, and 3 cloves of minced garlic into here. 28 ounces of crushed tomatoes. 3 tablespoons of tomato paste. 15-ounce can of tomato sauce. A teaspoon of dried basil. A teaspoon of dried Italian seasoning. A teaspoon of powdery oregano. Salt, pepper, and then we're gonna seal this tight and really good. Make sure there's no air in there. Now we're just gonna mix it in there really good. Meatballs. That was easy.
Okay, so the next thing we're gonna make is shrimp and fried rice. So the first thing, which we have already done, is we have cooked the rice. So the first thing that I'm going to do is make a sauce using like soy sauce, sesame seed oil, pepper, a little bit of ginger. So we'll again have the exact recipe in the description below. All right, so I've already taken the tails off of the shrimp and I have heated some oil in the skillet. So now we're just gonna stick the shrimp in here. All right, so we're just gonna let that cook for 2 or 3 minutes. All right, it's been a couple of minutes and the shrimp have been cooking. So I'm going to add some garlic and onions to it. All right, that is done. Next, we're going to let it cook another few minutes with some carrots and corn and peas. All right, that is mixed in. Next, we are going to add the rice. The puppy is whining. And pineapple. And the sauce mix. And let that cook for a few minutes. All right, so this has been cooking for a few minutes now. I'm gonna take it off the heat and let it set for a little while before I put them into individual bags.
Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to make freezable pancakes. 1.5 cups of flour. And sugar. 4 tablespoons of sugar. A pinch of salt. Baking powder. Now we need 1 egg. Milk. One cup and 1/4 cup. Tablespoon of vanilla. 3 tablespoons of butter. we've got a bunch of yummy pancakes right here.
Okay, the shrimp stir fry has now cooled off, so now I'm going to split this up into 4 smaller bags. So the way you'd reheat this, you would thaw it overnight. You can just stick it in the fridge, and then you can cook it on the stove with a little bit of oil to reheat it up.
Well, good morning. Today is day 3 and it is the last day. We're done after today, whether we get finished or not. We got a lot to do today, but I really do think we can get finished and it's going to pay off dividends. We've got tons of things in the freezer. And I just wanted to show you the fruits of my labors last night. This was just a side project. We took our leftovers, our chicken carcasses, and our leftover veggie scraps and put them in the Nesco roaster. And we made so much broth. And then I busted out the pressure canner and we canned it. This is 7 quarts that I canned. Because my pressure canner only holds 7 quarts, I have 2 more quarts in the fridge that we're just gonna use because I know we'll use it before they go bad. And even though these really aren't freezer meals, this is another really great go-to staple for the pantry. If you were wondering how to pressure can broth, we did this in our Every Bit Counts challenge. I will link that video down in the description below so you can see how to pressure can your broth. All right, like I said, it's the last day. We're in it to win it. We've got several more recipes to go. Everybody's in good spirits. We're all having joyful attitudes. And let's go. Today, the first thing we're gonna do is make some taco rice casserole. So first, I went ahead and browned this taco meat with some onions and some taco seasoning. And this is about 2 pounds of meat. And in this, I'm gonna mix 2 cans of black beans, 2 cans of diced tomatoes, and then 2 cans of corn. And I always drain the corn. If not, it gets all corny flavoring. Then we're gonna mix this up. And then all we do, we're gonna take 2 9x13 pans and we're gonna layer this in. I'm gonna spray it first. Then I have 4 to 5 cups of rice. I'm gonna put half of it in one pan and half of it in the other. And just kind of mash it down on the bottom. Then I'm gonna take the taco mixture and I'm gonna put half of it in each pan. Smash that down on top of the rice. Then I'm gonna take 3 cups of cheese and I'm gonna split this evenly and spread it over the top. The baby puppies are up this morning too, playing in the background if you can hear them. And that is all there is to it. We're gonna cover them with foil. And I always wanna write cooking instructions for this. We're gonna bake them in the oven at 350 degrees for 45 minutes. All right, 2 more family meals in the freezer. For this next meal, we are going to make chicken and spinach stuffed manicotti noodles, which are delicious. I will say this, it has been really difficult the past few months to find manicotti noodles of all things. So if you see them, grab them. And to prep for this, I went ahead and cooked 9 manicotti noodles and I sauteed some onions and some spinach. So we're gonna mix together half a cup of Parmesan cheese, a tub of ricotta cheese, and 2 tablespoons of parsley. And I'm gonna get these mixed really good before I add the chicken and the onion spinach mixture. Then I got about 1 pound of shredded chicken and onions, sauteed onions and spinach. mix those up a little bit. And this is gonna be the stuffing for our shells. So I have 1 jar of pasta sauce that we're gonna use in this recipe. I wanna put a little bit of it on the bottom, and that's gonna help these from not sticking. So I'm just gonna let it spread. Then I'm gonna take each of these noodles and I'm gonna stuff them full. And a lot of times it's easier to just stuff them with your fingers and clean up the mess later. All right, then if you have leftover stuffing, you can just layer it over the top. Then we're gonna pour the rest of the sauce over the top. And last but not least, we are going to put 1.5 cups of mozzarella cheese and sprinkle it over the top. And this is one you can pull straight out of the freezer and stick in the oven. You're gonna bake it at 350 for 60 to 75 minutes.
All right, now we are making ranch Parmesan chicken. So the first thing that we're going to do is to mix up the crumbs using panko breadcrumbs and Parmesan and garlic powder. We'll have the exact recipe in the description below. All right, so I've mixed up the crumbs and I've put some ranch on this plate here. And so now we're going to fix the actual chicken, which is super easy. So all you're gonna have to do is dip it in ranch. Listen to the puppies play. And then dip it in the Parmesan breadcrumb mix. And that is 1 chicken ready to go. All right, that is our super easy ranch Parmesan chicken recipe. So to reheat this, first you're gonna wanna thaw it. Then you will put it in a greased dish and put some melted butter on it. Then you're gonna bake it uncovered on 400 degrees for about 30 minutes. There it is, super easy.
Our pancakes have frozen for 5 hours, and we're just gonna bag them up. When you reheat them, you just wanna stick them in the microwave. Sure there's no air in there. Now I'm going to show you how to make freezable cinnamon rolls. I'm going to start by dissolving some yeast, some warm water, 2 cups of flour, and some warm milk. Some salt and an egg. Okay, so now I am going to pour my yeast mixture into another bowl with my dough, and we're gonna mix it with a bread hook. So we've mixed our bread good, and we're just gonna take the extra stuff off of there. Okay, we're gonna dump this on there, and we're gonna need this for about 5 minutes. All right, so we are going to cover this up. We have put our bread in here. We're gonna cover this up and let it rise. While our bread is rising, we're gonna make some Stromboli crust. So we're going to knead this for 5 minutes with floured hands and a floured surface. So we're gonna let this rise in the oven for 15 minutes. and we'll see you when it's done.
All right, now we are making ham and potato soup. And this is super easy because literally all you have to do to store this is stick all the ingredients in a bag. You'll add water and broth when you're reheating it. So I'm just gonna add, there's onions, ham, potatoes, carrots. Exact recipe is going to be in the description below. Right, that is it. That is a bag full of ham, potatoes, carrots, onions, and some bay leaves and spices. And it's that easy. So when you go to reheat this, you're going to want to let this thaw overnight. You're gonna put it in a slow cooker with some broth and water. It's gonna have to cook for 6 to 8 hours. Then take half of it out and put it in a blender. Blend that up, and then you can mix it back in and then serve it. You can put cheese on top. And that is it.
All right, another bread type thing that we're gonna get going is pizza dough. We do a lot of pizza making. My husband has a pizza stone out for his little rec tech, and this is a quick and easy dinner for us. And if we have pizza dough ready to go, then it makes it even quicker. 3 cups of bread flour in here. We're gonna do a teaspoon of salt, 1 package of active dry yeast, and a tablespoon of sugar. We're gonna let this start stirring and incorporating, and I'm gonna put 2 tablespoons of olive oil, and then 2 cups of warm water in here. I'm also gonna add 2 cups of all-purpose flour. And as this is mixing, I'm just going to, a little bit at a time, add my warm water and oil mixture. Let it incorporate fully. These KitchenAid mixers are fantastic, especially for bread making, because they take a lot of the hand kneading out. And so we're gonna go ahead and knead this for about 10 minutes with the stand mixer. All right, after going for 10 minutes, now we have our ball of dough, and I'm going to take this bowl, I'm going to put olive oil on it so the dough doesn't stick. And we're going to put it in a warm place. My oven has a bread proofing setting, which is where the other bread that we have rising right now is. I'm going to cover this and let it rise for an hour.
All right, next we're going to be making chocolate chip cookies. Now you can just use any cookie recipe for this. We're just using a regular chocolate chip cookie recipe, but instead of baking them, we're going to freeze them. And we're gonna bake them later whenever we're just ready to have cookies. So first thing you're gonna do for this is add together flour, baking soda, and salt in like a bowl. Of the exact recipe in the description below. All right, we're gonna set that aside, and next we're going to, in the mixing bowl, get together sugar, brown sugar, and vanilla. All right, next we're gonna add in the eggs. All right, that's been going for a minute. Now we are going to slowly add in the flour mixture. After that's mixed up, we are going to add in the chocolate chips. Going to set them on these sheets, and I am actually going to make big cookies this time. So you don't have to space these out. When you're freezing them, you will have to space them out more when they go into bake. But since we're just freezing them in the store, you can just put them all on one pan if you can fit them all in one pan. So this is my jumbo cookies.
All right, we're gonna roll up these cinnamon rolls now. Now we're gonna roll these out to a nice rectangle. So now what you're gonna do, just brush that butter on all over the place.
Buttery cinnamon rolls.
While she's doing that, I'm going to mix 3/4 of a cup of sugar and a tablespoon of ground cinnamon. And that's going to be our filling. All right, now we're going to sprinkle this on there.
Ooh.
Now
Yum.
we're going to take them and we're going to roll them. Okay?
And then cut them.
And then we'll cut them. So we're going to roll like this. You got it? Yeah. Good. Nice tight roll.
Ooh.
Perfect. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna freeze these. So we're gonna stick them on the baking sheet as we cut them. Let them freeze, and then we're gonna freeze them in a Ziploc bag and take out as many as we want. All right, I'm gonna go stick them in the freezer while you clean up. We're gonna stick them in there until they're nice and solid, and then we're gonna pull them out and put them in a baggie, all right? So, let's go do that. We're gonna roll this out into a big square, and then we're gonna cut it in 4 equal parts.
It's like,
Yep, likes to stretch.
it likes to also shrink back.
You're gonna put the pizza sauce on each one, spread it nice and thin. Then you're gonna layer pepperonis on it. Then you're gonna layer cheese on it. Then you're gonna roll it up like a cinnamon roll. You're gonna spread butter on the top of it, okay? Sprinkle parsley flakes and sprinkle garlic powder on the top. And then we'll wrap them up, ready for freezing. Think you got it? All right. Looks great. Those smell so good.
Very
So-
garlicky.
We are going to wrap these up and then put them in a Ziploc bag. And when you pull them out, you're going to bake them at 375 for 20 or 30 minutes. All right, our pizza dough is ready to go. I'm going to punch it down and we're going to pull it out. I'm going to divide this up into 4 even pieces, and those are going to be our personal pizzas for our pizza night. And I'm just going to separate these by wax paper and put them in a Ziploc baggie because we'll use them all at once when we make our delicious pizzas. All right, now we are ready to go. We've got our pizza dough all ready for pizza night. And I always keep extra toppings and cheese and sauce in jars ready to go so that we can have pizza night at the drop of a hat. Let's put these in the freezer. Whew. All right, we are getting close to the end. We are making, with all of our leftover chicken, we're gonna do a big chicken fried rice batch. We've already cooked the rice because we batch cooked a bunch of the rice at the same time. We're gonna scramble 18 eggs, and I've got some more chicken cooking over here that we're gonna add some soy sauce to. I'm also gonna put in the rest of our chicken to heat up. Now that the raw chicken is cooked and the other chicken is heated up, we're gonna add 2 cups of soy sauce. And we're just gonna let this sit for a few minutes and let the chicken soak it in. All right, now we're ready to mix it all up. All right, this is a massive recipe, so I'm gonna use my pan from my roaster because it holds 18 quarts. I'm gonna put half a cup of sesame seed oil in here. And then I'm gonna put 5 to 6 pounds of veggies. These are just frozen veggies. And again, this recipe isn't super precise. Just kind of what you have laying around and left over is great. But it's gonna make a ton of food. Now, I want all those veggies to get coated in that oil. So I'm gonna mix them up. All right, now we're just gonna add all the things. So here's our scrambled eggs. Our meat and soy sauce. And now I'm gonna add the rice. The recipe called for 20 cups of uncooked rice. That's a lot. We cut it down to 13, and still that's a lot. So I'm gonna stir it in a little at a time so that I can get the ratio that I really want. All right, so here we are. That's a consistency that I'm really pleased with. So I'm gonna start doling it out into some pans. I'm gonna divide this between some of these dishes. This is gonna be delicious dinner. All right, it's time to wrap them up. We'll write the instructions on them. These are gonna get thawed in the fridge overnight, go into the oven at 350 for 1 hour, and then they're ready to go. And we have 5 whole family meals out of this one recipe. Only one recipe to go, then we'll bring everything out and show you what we made this weekend.
Okay, this is our very last one of the day. Super glad. It has been a tiring weekend. So this is a taco bake. It's kind of like a lasagna, but with tacos, basically. So first thing you're going to want to do for this is you're going to want to brown beef and onions in a pan together, which I've already done. So after that, you're going to want to add salsa, beans, and chili powder, oregano, cumin, and garlic powder to that. We'll have the link to the ingredients, amounts, and stuff in the description below. All right, now with that mixed together, we are going to set this to the side for a minute and mix together the sour cream and green chilies. All right, that is done. Now we can start building the taco bakes. So I have 2 pans here. I'm gonna take a medium-sized tortilla. We're gonna take roughly 1/6 for each tortilla. You want to split it up into thirds and then divide that up between however many tortillas you have. Then after that, we're going to put another tortilla on top of those and layer this on. And the puppies are needy. Then I'm going to put the last 2 tortillas on to top them off. And now we're going to top this with the sour cream mixture. And some cheese. And that is the layered taco bake and our very last freezer meal for the weekend.
All right, girls, high five. Woo! Look at all we accomplished in one weekend. We are exhausted, but this is a pretty amazing progress. We made 4 desserts. We made 22 individual breakfasts, 42 individual lunches, and 38 family dinners. This is going to last us over a month. This is going to last us probably 2 or 3 months, and these meals will be good in the freezer for up to 3 months. So we have 3 months to eat them. This is going to make for some really great evenings that we can just sit back and relax and enjoy taking a breath. So we are so thankful that you joined us for this adventure. If you got some value out of this video, be sure to give it a like and hit that subscribe button so you can see new content as we put it out. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great day.